Part of the Azure serverless platform is a service called Logic Apps. Logic Apps allow you to create complex workflows and orchestrations that connect a multitude of services. So you can connect to third-party services, you can connect to Azure resources, and they work very seamlessly with Azure functions as well. I'm going to show you today how to build a Logic App workflow in the designer and use a function app that I created that simply places some text in a queue. I've got the function app running right now in the Azure portal. I'm going to pull that up so that you can see it's a very simple application. We'll pull this function application up, and there's one function running inside of this app called send phrase. And send phrase is very simple. I pass a phrase to the function endpoint, and what this is going to do is add this to a queue so that the phrases collect in the queue. And we can use the built-in test harness to send different phrases. So for example, I can send the phrase that's here, "This is awesome," and that'll load that into the queue. And then I can add another phrase, and we're going to say, "This is really, really bad." So I'll go ahead and run that, and we should get a 200 OK message from that, and we know that it's posted now to the queue. So what we want to do is create a Logic app that's going to process that queue. The way that you create a Logic app is you can add a new resource in Azure, search for Logic app. That's going to pull up the dialog that'll walk you through the various steps. And this is typical to creating most Azure resources. We give it a unique name, we give it a resource group, tell it the location. I'm going to save some time by jumping into a Logic app that I already created. So off my dashboard, I have this Logic app called Phrase Analyzer, but right now it's an empty Logic app. I haven't added anything to the workflow. So what we can do is start with an existing trigger. There's actually several types of triggers that kick off the Logic app process. We can even use an existing template. There's some complex workflows built in out of the box that you simply customize your connectors and work from. But we're going to start with a blank Logic app. And the first step is pulling something off the Azure queue. So I select Azure queue, and I select the trigger of when messages are in a queue. This is going to ask me to navigate to the queue that I want to check, which is a queue I created called phrases. This is what's being populated by the function app. So the first step is to grab the phrase off the queue. The next step, we're going to use something called text analysis. This is one of our cognitive services. And we're going to use sentiment analysis to determine if the phrase is positive or negative. So I've got this action, detect sentiment. I'm just going to click on that node, and it's asking me for the text to analyze. This is where Logic Apps is extremely powerful because every step in the workflow creates for me this box on the side of content that I can use to populate each step. So in this case, I'm going to take the message text, which is the phrase I want to analyze. Now I'm going to add another step. I've pulled that analysis out of the sentiment analysis. Now I can use a workflow to make a decision. So I'm going to add a condition, and that condition is going to ask basically if the score, and then we'll use is less than, and we'll say 0.4. Then we've got an if true, so this would be a negative sentiment, and we've got an if false, and this would be a positive sentiment. So what I'm going to do on the if true is add an action, and I'm going to just send a message to a Teams channel. So we'll go ahead and type in Microsoft Teams to pull up our Teams connectors. We select that, and then I have the option to post a message. So I'm going to click that option, and then it'll ask me to find the team. So we're going to pull that down. I have a Cloud Developer Advocacy team. And then we're going to pick a channel within those teams. And I've created a special channel just for sentiment analysis. So we'll scroll down and pick the sentiment analysis channel. And then we can input what the message is. So I'm going to say detected a negative phrase and pull in the message text. And that's what we'll do if it's true. On the false side, we're going to do a similar thing. We're still going to post to the Teams channel, but this time we'll say we detected a neutral or positive message. So I'm picking Microsoft Teams, I'm choosing post message, again just grabbing the team name, the channel name, which is sentiment analysis, and the message, and this time we'll say detected a neutral or positive phrase. And again, we'll just show the message text from the queue that we pulled earlier. The final step is outside of the condition. So whether it was true or false, I need to delete that message from the queue. The way that Logic Apps works is when it detects the message, it peeks it from the queue, but it doesn't necessarily remove it in case you have decisions you need to make that would leave that message on the queue. So we're going to add an action, and within that action, we're going to pick Azure Queues again. And we're going to delete the message. Now to delete the message, we need to pick the queue. We need a unique message ID, which was passed in when we looked at the message earlier. So we can just scroll down and pick message ID. And then we need something called a pop receipt. This is issued when we peek at that message off the queue. And once again, that's just passed in to the list of available options. And I'm done. So I can save this and run the Logic app. And then I'm going to launch Teams. And as you can see, we've detected a neutral or positive phrase. This is awesome. Detected a negative phrase. This is really, really bad. This is just one of many examples of what you can do with Logic Apps. You can have even more complex orchestrations. Again, Logic Apps, part of the Azure serverless platform, works seamlessly with different storage, social media, services, Azure resources, and a great way to build business orchestrations.